Alright guys, feeling here back more. NieR Automata. Again, listen to Stockwatch podcast, but we are also continuing on the game.
However,
we have to return.
The person they're sending home is not the person they should be sending home. Whitney is not the correct target for them. They should have at least stuck to their guns when it came to Hannah. They got flat out played by Hannah, who, played on their, past history of a relationship when Hannah had actually been gunning for Alyssa and putting a target on Alyssa's back for,
don't know how long I'll go for tonight.
And still
I did take sleeping last night. I'm starting to get a bit tired.
And they're taking out Whitney, who, yes, she did talk about going after Christian and Alyssa, but
I'll probably record some tomorrow as well. I don't really have anything I have to do in the morning. Though I think I will try to get an earlier start to working on stuff for my other channel, considering I got stuff going on in the afternoon.
So really, really bad for them that they not only let Whitney go, but actively targeted her. That has to make the score go down. But at the same time, a lot of people, like pretty much everybody in the game, apart from the cookout, is making the same mistake. That they don't see the cookout exists, and they can't do much about it because of that. And if they had tried to make some kind of other shot, it would have killed all of the work that they were trying to do in the short term to put the target off of their backs, and likely would have gotten them into some trouble in the short term because of it. So this was kind of a lose-lose situation, but they, I think, made the wrong play. I think they should have gone for a bigger shot that would have been more beneficial to their games, even if it made them a bigger target in the short term. Instead, they went for a safer shot, took some short-term safety, which I do think will hold, in hopes of perhaps, Christian winning more competitions in the future, which is certainly possible, or that, things will change and shift as time goes on, which is also certainly possible. So all that to say, I'm also at a 6 for Alyssa. It's where I've always thought she should be.
Are there any other machines that are cut off from the network?
Admirably, given the circumstances of being, completely in the dark about this bigger alliance, which, as opposed to other large, alliances that are secret, I think giving a little bit more leeway when it comes to people not seeing this one, because it is a little bit unique. They came together very early on. Never talked game with each other, never coordinated with each other. They've never acted like an alliance. They've never acted like something to even be caught on to. And because of that, I think, I don't think that the audience even saw them as a locked-in alliance until just last week, when Tiffany decided out of the blue that she was going to change her entire plan and go in this other direction. So there wasn't even anything to catch, really, until last week. So the fact that they haven't caught on to it yet is like, I mean, how could you? It's such a strange thing here. So for me, Alyssa's at a 6 here, and she should be safe moving forward. I do think that her and Christian still have legs in this game, primarily because she still has some decent instincts, and Christian is just a remarkable competitor in these competitions. So we will see how all of that goes. Melissa, how do you feel about Alyssa?
I think both of you made really good points, and I think that I was teetering between a 5 and a 6, to be honest. But I do think you guys have convinced me to go with a 6, just because I do think you're right. Like, my thought was like, well, they're totally blind to the cookout, and they're getting out the wrong person.
I think some of us are better at that
I think you're absolutely right that, like, why would you think the cookout was an alliance? Like, under any normal circumstances, under any normal game, an alliance would make some sort of indication that they were working together. Like, I don't know, meeting, talking to each other, forming as a group. Like, I mean, that would be, a dead giveaway that this is an alliance. But, and I think another thing, and I don't know if people like want to say this, but I'm just going to say it, that like, if the cookout, if you were to assume that the cookout is an alliance because of like why they formed, like they formed for a reason. And if you were to make that assumption as an outside person, like, well, they must be in an alliance because of, this factor. They all are very, whatever. And they all have a larger message to portray, that sort of thing. You would be like, I'm terrible for assuming that. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like you should automatically assume that people are working together because they have similar backgrounds. You know what I mean? Like, that would be bad. And so, like, I could see why why people would be like, well, why would I automatically assume that they were working together? Like, they don't meet, they don't hang out, they don't do anything that a normal alliance would do. So I absolutely think that it makes sense why you would miss that. And so I don't think we can hold it against them that they've missed this. So, you know, I do think that I have to be more generous, I think, to them, because I do think they're playing well. And I do think that, you know, they still have room to go in this game. I think that if everyone was looking at them and saying, okay, next week we have to break up the showmance, I'd be much more concerned with them. But it does feel like Sarah Beth has given them a little bit of time to at least figure it out. You've got like this, you know,
meal.
This
There's pauses.
Huh? Hey, where am I?
Or this is one of the meals, like clones, right?
Hey there, guys.
It's like he created like a billion different versions of himself.
This thing's weird, 2B. Let's kill it.
Wait, what? No. Good idea. No!
Okay, what was that?
endurance comp coming up, and I think that Alyssa could do well. So, you know, you never know, but yeah, I feel like I do have to bump their scores up because I am impressed with them generally, even if they're getting out the wrong target this week.
All right. Well, the audience, it was somewhat close here, but they did not go with the 6. They went ahead and gave Alyssa a 5, same as last week.
Really?
But she did finally, you know, I said week 1, I thought Alyssa was a 6, but she was on the block and in a bad spot. She's finally made her way up.
Yeah, she's not being targeted at this point.
Overall,
so,
so we'll see how that goes. Let's talk about Azza.
Azza's probably still 4.
I gave her a 3 last week, as did the
actually, no,
audience.
she has been targeted, though.
I mean, she volunteered to go up on the block last week. So, you know, that wasn't great.
Is just ahead.
Am I going to stick with the 3 this week? She's still not impressed me. I'm still not loving what Azza's giving here in the game. However, she didn't volunteer to go up on the block this week, so that's already a marked improvement. And for that reason, I think I'll go up to the 4 here for Azza. I don't think she is a good player. I think that she could be. I really do. You know, when she is social with people, she's very charming. She has great things to say. I think that she is also like, very intelligent. I think that she could be a good strategist if she actually wanted to be. It's the philosophy, I guess, that's really holding her back. She just doesn't see the game in the way that it needs to be seen in order to play it well. Now, that doesn't mean that she can't still win. I think she could. But especially in a cast like this, she may have trouble. Because they are going to want to respect a hard-played game, and that's not really what Azza's all about. But I do think that she could make it very far, especially because she's in the cookout. And if they do get to the final 6, or even if you know, she comes close to the final 6, because of that, she will have the opportunity to win some of those endgame comps. She will be potentially seen as somebody to bring to the end, and that's a good spot to be in, even if you are currently in a bad spot to win the game overall. If you're gonna be there, you're at least a 4 for me most of the time, unless you're actively doing things to ruin your own game, which she didn't quite do this week. So it's a 4 for me. Melissa, how do you feel about Azza?
Same, 4 for me as well. I feel like I think if she didn't have the cookout, I think she would be in a bad spot, because people are talking about putting her up on the block, maybe not as the target, but at least as a pawn. And I think that if she didn't have the cookout behind her, like, to keep her safe, she'd be in a lot of danger, because, you know, pawn goes up, someone wins veto, pawn goes home, you know, you never know. So I am a little worried about her, and I also am worried, you know, I just don't know if she has the strategy there. I think the way that she communicates to people sometimes is a little is bad for her game, to be honest. So I just am not super impressed so far. Unfortunately, as much as I like her, I'm just not super impressed. So yeah, it's a 4.
Oh yeah.
I have in my notes 4/5, and then next to it I have
How are we
5
supposed to reach that
if I
castle?
thought that she would use the game position that her alliance has put her in, that the game has put her in. She's getting a 5 because she's in a very lovely spot. The problem is, and I think with BB20, Taryn, you kept talking about killer instinct with Casey. I don't know if Casey has killer instinct. This isn't that, but I don't think she has the game instinct. I genuinely don't see it. I think that, well, the thing is, she's had a rough start in this game. Her team was just constantly put up. Frenchie was targeted, blah, 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 blah. But I feel like she's positioned currently in a great spot, right? But is she going to wake up and decide, time for the game, let's get it, let's go, this is what I'm doing, grab the agency now and pull back? I don't see any of that. That's why she's getting a 4 from me. Otherwise, genuinely, if I thought she had even 30% of what I'm describing, she'd be getting that 5.
Yeah. All right. So a 4 from Puya, and it is a 4 from the audience as well. They crossed that threshold just barely, but they got over it. So it's going to be straight 4s for Azza this week, which ultimately is the same. Or no, it is a little bit above last week. It looks like. No, sorry, I looked at the wrong one again. It is the same as last week. The person that got a 3 last week was Brittany. Overall, Brittany got the 3. Melissa, how do you feel about Brittany?
I feel like I feel the same about Brittany. I think that while she's not on the block, I think people still consider her for the block. And one of these days she's going to go home. I don't feel like she's doing really well in terms of, forging alliances with people. I don't think she's using this week as like a good, platform to move forward in the game. I just don't feel so great about her. So yeah, I'm just gonna keep with my 3 at this
had
point.
A king? But how can a concept like loyalty be
Yeah,
understood by a machine?
there's a problem with Brittany, and that problem is that she should be a 4, but Azza is sort of taking up that spot, and she's, I think, a better player than Azza, but in a much worse position, and so unless something changes, she's just facing a losing battle. She can't get past that sort of like. Even if she does survive the short term, she doesn't have the long-term game to get past like the final 7, and Azza does, and that's not good for Brittany. Again, for better or worse, she has taken herself out of the pawn pool and put herself in the target pool, and that I think makes her more likely to win if she gets to the final 2, but getting there is going to be really difficult, and the fact that she's not seen as a pawn will only make it more difficult, and she has the cookout to contend with, and there's just a lot of things standing in her way. I think she's honestly a better player than a 3, and people might disagree with me on that, but I do think she has potential in this game, but right now she's locked out of all of that potential, and her position is just way too bad, and so yeah, it's a 3 for me as well. The audience went with the 3 for Brittany. Also, Puya, are you gonna give the last 3 here, or you're different?
Well, I'll tell you this: my note says 3, so I'm not just following the group. But here's why, right? So Brittany was a 3 last week. On what account? Was a 3 last week on one account. She was on the block again, and that was really it. That was her whole thing. This week she's not on the block. The only game progression I have seen personally is that she made this final 2 with Christian today officially. But even if this final 2 was to get completed, she would lose in this final 2. So this is not going to progress her game, because I do think that in this season specifically right now, the way things are standing, if you are, and this is again, they don't know The cookout is an alliance. If you are
Yeah,
not in the cookout,
I think this
you
will be the
need
last
to be
episode
making
for
connections
tonight.
with at least
I'm
one or
starting
two
to get
people
pretty
within the
tired.
cookout to
It's not
further
even that
yourself.
late,
And
but
Brittany, I currently do
yeah,
not
I
see
took some
having that kind of
lessons.
connection really with anyone within that
This looks like
within
a
that
king's
alliance.
castle, all right.
And then on top of that, I just don't see Brittany being able to shake off the persona she currently has in this house as the person who's on the block twice, unless Brittany gets some agency in the game by winning a competition. And I don't think it's impossible for her to win a competition. I don't think she's drawing dead in competitions, but she has to win one to really pull herself out of where she is at the moment. And until that happens, I don't see her pushing up again unless, again, she makes some inroads. The other good thing that's going on for her is, should we believe the boot order that Tiffany has, and should Tiffany be successful and implement this boot order, Brittany's making it to Final 7. But that, again, isn't saying much for her game at all. So that's where I'm going to be sitting.
Roger that.
All right,
Ryan.
let's get on to Christian then, and I'll lead off with the audience on this one. And this is actually this is interesting. This is a little bit surprising from the audience as I look at this. It's just barely, but Christian has actually moved up for the first time from the audience, and he got a 6 from the audience this week. So so there you go, a 6 from the audience. Booyah, how do you feel about that?
6. I mean, listen. Would I have said Christian would be the one to go up on the audience's eyes? Not really. I don't think 6 is a bad spot for Christian. I really don't. Matter of fact, I have Christian as a 6. Like I said, to me, Alyssa and Christian have been kind of tethered here. Christian, after winning all these competitions, should be the #1 target going into the next one. Everyone should see this as, listen, if we do believe that jury's about to start, let's get rid of the guy that's won everything. It makes sense. He can't compete next week. Let's do that. But instead, because of the threat he's posing, I feel like a lot of people are now trying to hide behind we'll get him at the double. We'll sneak him out in the middle of the double. He won't know better. That'll be fine. There's a lot of people like Tiffany talking about she needs specifically Derek X to take the shot, and it's like, very specifically, no one else can take this. Yeah, you must go on this. It's like some kind of like lost kind of thing where it's like, this is your legacy. You have to board this plane. Why? Why is it DX?
Can we pause on that for just a second? Because
sure.
I like, and you always have to take these things with a grain of salt, because she was talking to somebody else about this. But you're right. Her plan is that Derek X needs to stay in the game because only he is able to beat Christian in competitions. And so we need to keep him around for as long as it takes to get Christian out. But my question then is, how do you take Derek X out? Who watches the Watchmen? If Derek X is really good at competitions and is the only one that can beat Christian, who's really unbeatable at competitions, then once Christian's gone, you can't beat Derek X either.
Right.
It doesn't make any sense. Maybe they just assume that they don't have to worry about it. I don't know. Maybe they'll cross that bridge when they come to it.
Yeah,
and someone will be able to defeat him.
Is that the right way then?
I don't know.
I think everything should make it evidently clear. Get this guy out next week. And listen, it's not impossible. He's still on the list. He's still possible. There's still chances where he goes. And I think there's bigger chances that he will go before Alyssa more times than not, I believe. Despite people saying that they think Alyssa might be a better game player, he's the one winning the competitions. So, but then when you think about it, what I said earlier about what are your relationships within, the cookout and within other people besides Alyssa? He's got a good thing going with Xavier. He's got a decent thing going with Tiffany. Like, he's very well situated, in my opinion, to progress if he keeps winning. People are going to want to keep working with him if they're not the one taking the shot at him. And currently there's enough people in the house that do not want to be the one taking the shot at him, which means he should be okay. Again, the wrong person wins HOH next week, he could be sitting on that block. But for this week, the dude won both competitions and is not the immediate target.
So is this where we,
for that alone, he should get a 6.
is this where
but
we
also
need
his
a
team is
2A?
intact.
A2,
Alyssa's good, and he's fine, and he gets a 6.
I believe it is, right?
I feel similarly. I feel like I feel like I said a lot of it with Alyssa. I think that where Christian falls short, Alyssa picks up the slack. Where Alyssa has been falling short to a degree, Christian has been picking up the slack. Alyssa's social game not quite as good as Christian's. Christian's strategic game definitely not as good as Alyssa's. And Christian is just so good at these competitions. You cannot take that for granted, especially if people aren't willing to take the shot. Now, again, you have to remember that, and I'll keep mentioning this, but Jackson Hall, right? I don't have the stats in front of me right now. Hold on, I can pull them up for a second here. But I think people overestimate the ability to take out these competition threats, especially when they're in a duo. Because Alyssa, I think, can win competitions. She's not somebody that is gonna lose a bunch of stuff. But Jackson and Holly are gonna trade HOHs for at least 3 weeks here in Big Brother 21, and then there's one double eviction, and then Jackson wins the next 2 competitions in the next final HOH. They had very few opportunities to take one of Jackson or Holly out of the game. They decided against it in those few chances that they had, and they paid for it because they never really got another.
Yeah, I should pause it.
Is this?
I'm starting to get really tired, by the way. So I do think we will probably call it a day. So, yeah, there we go.
B. That's an android. A Yorha-type android.
Alert. This unit is currently wanted by Yorha. Annihilation recommended.
Annihilation? But why?
Let's go, 9S.
2B?
Bunker to 2B and 9S. We've picked up a signal from the black box of a fugitive known as A2. What you see in front of you is your enemy.
But She
deserted us. She's destroyed multiple pursuit androids. Now kill her before she kills you.
This guy kind of boring.
Another chance. The same could absolutely end up being true of Christian and Alyssa, and that's something that the house guests should not be ignoring, and it's something that we should not be ignoring, and that's one of the reasons why, for me, they are still.
Why? Why did you betray us?
Command is the one that betrayed you.
Let's go after her, 2B.
She's gone.
Operator, this is 9S. Patch me through to the commander.
Roger that, 9S.
I'm sorry, Commander. We failed to defeat the fugitive.
I see. Well, at least you're both safe. That's an incredibly powerful unit you just faced. You should probably keep your distance in the future.
Commander, why did A2 desert the Force?
I'm afraid that's classified.
Oh? Huh. 2B,
Yeah?
let's go ask Pascal about A2. He might know something.
All right.
Pascal? This is 9S.
Oh, you survived. How wonderful.
Yeah, we're fine. but there's something we want to ask you about.
Of course.
Oh, shit.
Anything.
Actually, it needs to be in person.
Understood. I'll open the gate we built to deter enemy invaders. You'll be able to reach the village through there.
Let's actually save again.
They are right now 6s, as opposed to anything lower than that, which their long-term positioning would, I think, potentially indicate. So there you go. Melissa, how do you feel? You're muted.
Yes. Sorry. Just trying to keep the dogs quiet. Anyway, I feel the same way that you guys feel about Christian. I feel like under any normal circumstance, he would be next on the target list, like high priority. We have to get this guy out or else he's going to win everything. And he's really not. I mean, yeah, people are talking about it, but he's not. He's not even the next one to go according to these people's lists. I mean, like, they want Sarah Beth before they want him. And even when they're talking about getting Christian out, or putting Christian and Alyssa up, a lot of people are saying Alyssa should be the one to go because she, like, controls Christian, quote unquote. So I do think that he is doing a pretty good job socially, and he's also doing a great job physically. However, that does come with the fact that it puts him up there as a big threat. But
It'll
if no one's going to take the shot, if no one's going to do anything, then who cares? So, yeah, I'm going to give him a 6 as well.
I see.
There you go. Straight 6
About this
for
H2N
Christian.
representation.
Christian and Alyssa on the rise this
We don't
week.
understand
All right, let's talk about Claire.
She's never
Booyah.
visited our village in
What are your thoughts on
person.
Claire?
My apologies.
It's
That's all
interesting,
we
right?
really
So
need.
Claire,
I see.
I would like to announce
thanks.
our first juror for maybe 23.
Let's stay sharp and head
No
back
matter
to the
what anything
resistance
else
camp.
happens next
We
week,
should run a check on our
Claire's gonna be
consciousness
voting for
data
someone
and
at the end of the
resupply.
game. So at the very least, if she's not in the final 2, so already that's it. I don't want to make this rep a huge accomplishment in the game of Big Brother. However, moving forward, let's look at some of these other things going on. I think that Claire is someone who
Transport
genuinely
to
understands this
resistance.
game better than everyone else, and this not only because.
Imprint makes it easy to find perfect products to wow your customers or celebrate your team. Much easier than finding a Bigfoot. For promotional products people use and love, Imprint, for certain.
Whether it's the bond between father and son,
9S, why did you ask
or
Pascal
between
about
good
A2?
friends and neighbors.
It's not recommended
They
to
are
interface
still,
with machines without
they are right now
consulting
6s.
command.
Yeah, I
To
know.
accomplish this,
I'm sorry.
should she
Though
decide
I
to.
suppose such
Because I
intense
think ultimately
curiosity can be
the
admirable
relationships Tiffany and
in
Claire
its
have
own
with
way.
the same people, Tiffany has a stronger relationship with pretty much all
Thanks,
of them.
2B.
So if she
Still,
ends up pushing
machines
that
are the
agenda,
enemy.
I think she
Don't
can get it
forget
done.
it.
And unlike the other parts of her boot list or her, the list that she's put together, I feel like Claire's the one on that list that I think she feels strongest about doing. Everyone else seems a little bit more like they could.
What should I
but
do here?
She's so adamant on Claire.
Should I buy a weapon or should
All
I?
of this, Taryn, for me is making me decide basically, am I giving Claire the bump up because I feel like
Claire
she just
wasn't
got safe?
stronger than that,
Ultimately,
though,
I'm
right?
not, because that one little bit does worry me. She's safe next week, but for this week, she's staying at a 7 for me.
All right, Melissa, what do you think?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with everything Puya just said. It's funny because our ratings are all basically the same, but it's all very easy to see this week. I feel like there's not that much room for like, I think this person's doing great. I think this person's not doing great. I think they're all like, we're all accurately rating them, but they all just happen to be the same. But I do agree with what Puya's saying. Like, I think that Claire is in a decent spot, but I do think she needs to start looking outside of Tiffany. I feel like now that we know that Tiffany is not loyal, like final 2 with Claire, I think that Claire needs to start forging relationships that are not just in a group with Tiffany.
And while we
So
have enough
I think
room
that's
as
super
is,
important because, like Puya said, in those groups, Tiffany seems to have the better relationship with everyone in them than Claire does, and I think that is going to pose a problem for her down the line. So I really think she needs to start looking outside of Tiffany.
So
as
we
sad
really
as
have
it is
8
for me
more.
to say that, because I really love the two of them
Did I
together.
really fill it up last time?
Clearly. But you know, I just think that that's something she needs to do, and if she can't start doing that, then I think we need to be a little worried for her. However, at this point, I still want to keep her at a 7.
But and also, while we've been doing this podcast, she's been talking to the cameras, and she's talked about how she sees the writing on the wall. She's nervous for SP to go because she thinks she could be the next in line. So she is nervous. She is thinking about these things, and these are great things to think about. But then she has to put in that work to reverse some of that damage for herself, because she's got the read. But what are you going to do about it? I think she's got the capability, but is she going to clock that in order to do so? She has to, you know, go against her biggest ally in the game to make it happen.
Yes. All right. Well, here are my thoughts on Claire. I'm very prepared to give Claire a 6 this week, but there are a few factors that are boosting her up just a little bit for me. One is that she's safe next week. She guaranteed has another full week to change the trajectory
let's just
of her
end
game.
here.
Two is that as opposed to players like Alyssa and Christian,
we'll continue on tomorrow night.
is recognizing
tomorrow morning,
the fact that she is in some danger. She, as you pointed out, Priya, talks to the cameras, recognizes that, hey, given the current trajectory of the game, I'm probably gone in a couple of weeks. I'm probably at least the target in a couple